Hello everyone and welcome to my kitchen. Today I am going to be showing you my recipe for chuck roast chili. Now we're just going to go ahead and get straight into the recipe here. So the first thing I'm doing is chopping up 3 stalks of celery because I love celery in my chili. So just chopping those up and then throwing those into my crock pot. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and dice up a bell pepper and put that in my crock pot as well. Now here I am using a orange pepper. I actually prefer green pepper for my chili, but an orange pepper is what I had in the fridge, so that's what I'm using. After the pepper, we're going to go ahead and chop up 1 large onion, or if you don't have large onions, if you have like small or medium, I would go with 2. And we're just gonna dice that and throw that into our crock pot as well. Now we're going to add in some jalapenos. This is going to be our heat for the chili. I'm using 2 jalapenos here, and what I did was I went ahead and just chopped up the one with the seeds and the ribs intact, and then the second one I went ahead and took out the seeds and ribs. And now you can see I am putting in my chuck roast. This is raw and actually frozen. If you have time, you can actually cut this into chunks before adding it to your crock pot and sear it in a hot skillet. It would deepen the flavor, but I didn't have time, so just do what works for you. This was a 2-pound chuck roast. You can use anywhere between a 2 and a 4-pound, and it should work out fine. And now we're going to go ahead and get into seasoning. I'm using probably about a tablespoon of salt here, about half a tablespoon of black pepper. Then we're going to use some dark chili powder. If you've never tried dark chili powder, I highly recommend it. It's just going to be a little bit of a deeper flavor. It's absolutely my favorite. So about 2 to 3 teaspoons of dark chili powder. And then we're going to go in with some Mexican oregano, so about 2 teaspoons of that, and then about 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. I'm also going to do about a teaspoon of garlic powder and onion powder in here as well. For your tomato base, I recommend a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes and a 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes. Any tomato product will work, so you can see here I didn't have crushed tomatoes, I just had whole tomatoes. That's fine. Any tomato product is going to work fine, but if you have your preference, if you're shopping just for the chili, I do recommend the crushed and the diced. And then we're going to add our beans in, and I am using 2 cans of light red kidney beans and 2 cans of dark red kidney beans. But you can do whatever you want with the beans. You can do a mixture of any type of bean that you prefer. Black beans, pinto beans, white beans. Any bean is fine here. I'm just using the kidney beans today. And now it is time to let this cook. I just covered this with the lid and let this cook on low for 8 hours. Now at the 8-hour mark, I went ahead and took out my chuck roast and just chopped it up into chunks. Now it should pretty much just flake apart, so you could actually do this with forks in your crock pot if you wanted to. I did it with my knife because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have chunks that were too big. And the second thing that I did at the 8-hour mark was to use my immersion blender to blend together my chili base a little bit. So what this does is just give me a little bit thicker of a base because it's blending those beans into those tomatoes. And I did end up adding another can of kidney beans after I had blended it, just because I felt like I over blended it a little bit. So I did end up adding another can of beans. It's totally up to you if you want to do the same thing I did here, but really this is our chili. And here is our finished product. It's kind of like a cross between chili and beef stew. Really, really delicious, really hearty, and super, super good for the cold weather ahead.